Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And we're back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness. I wasn't supposed to bring us back, Barnet.
I was kidding. Yeah, but I just pulled out my...
You had to have your prerequisite technical challenges.
Every time, every show, I have to have a little tech issue.
We haven't had any distraction, though. We haven't had something where you go, what's that?
Exactly. It's like, is that a bird run by? It's like,
what just happened? There is so little that can actually distract you in this studio. It is shocking.
It doesn't take a lot. Well, I'm distracted by the new paint.
How fun was that to talk to Sam? I mean, I like the procrastination conversation. That was valuable. But I love the spontaneous art conversation because we like art.
The Spart conversation.
I like the orientation towards life as art. Mm-hmm. I think that if we can really insert humor into the crazy making of how we do things. And I think, again, I'm borrowing from kind of your platform, Barnet, where there's a healthy sense of expectation because, improv relies on an expectation that this will go somewhere, because some vast amount of the improv is going nowhere, but there's the anticipation that it's going to go somewhere that keeps everyone glued. I mean, there can be great moments in the we don't know where we're going, but what's so magical, having been around improv a bit myself, is that it does end up going somewhere, but it only goes there because everyone has faith that it'll eventually take form. And that is so much what the creative process is about, that if you really understand how to get and splash around in those creative waters with enough expectation that it'll take form, it will.
So I love what you're saying. The creative process, life is the creative process.
That's
and when
the
we
point.
understand that our lives are full-time 24/7 creative acts, choice to choice to choice is a creative act. When we understand that, and when we also understand as actors in improv understand that the rules of creating successful improvs, no less the rules of creating successful lives, are to expect. And the way improvs are structured, the expectation is structured into it's baked into the cake by the very nature of the rules. And the rules are you accept everything that comes at you. Yes, and then you add to it, and so that is a recipe for expectation. If we do that in life, we will have the same creative, unexpected in terms of how it plays out, but expected because we are embracing and amplifying moment to moment on what can be.
And to start, all you may be given is a spatula. I mean, one of the great, I don't know if it's an excuse, but people have this whole, but
I didn't have enough.
That person got, good looks, or they came from money, or whatever. And the guy sitting there with his spatula, and all I got was a spatula. But I mean, the point of improv is it really doesn't matter what you start with. Okay, one person gets a spatula, and one person gets some interesting machine that they get to figure out what it means. But then this whole improv could be about the machine versus where the spatula could take you so much farther. Who knows? So it's another piece of the artistic perspective is whatever you're given, there is something amazing that could come out of that. Irregardless, there is no hierarchy here. And I love what Sam said too, which is, we have created these hierarchy. One form of art is considered better, right? We've had the poet laureate on the show, Richard Blanco. And poets, along with weavers, are the lowest paid artists on the planet. They make no money. And yet he's such a genius. I would even say yet. Even that, I tripped on myself because this guy is brilliant. And if you've not listened to that show, folks, I recommend you go back and listen.
Great show.
Because his wisdom Yes, he can wordsmith, but he's got a depth to him that's really palpable. But that's another thing is like we've said, to be a filmmaker, that's so impressive. To be an artist, to be a poet, oh, well, you don't have two nickels to rub together, but, we need you too, along with the Weavers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We love the Weavers.
We love the Weavers. All they were given was some yarn and a loom, and look what they created.
They were lucky they were given a loom. Otherwise, they're weaving on a board with nails.
With
remember
a spatula.
Remember that when you were little? There was like
That's right.
You had a board with some nails, and
and it worked brilliantly. Nothing wrong with the nails.
And you had that. You made some sort of little shuttlecock. Now, if you had the spatula in the shuttlecock, you're in the badminton game.
That's right.
Already, you're creating.
Yeah.
But the expectation that is baked into the cake of improv, when we can bake into the cake an expectation of some outcome, unforeseen, but some wonderful outcome, and I continue to play, I continue to say yes to everything that comes, and I continue to add to it with the understanding that something wonderful is going to be created here. The game supports you. Life will always support you in that.
It's so apropos because some of the, I won't go into what's going on in my life because it's not required, but just how many balls are in the air. And sometimes I scratch my head and go, what the heck am I doing?
Yeah, it looks like a batting cage in there.
It does. Except with like 4 pitchers going out all at the same time. Yeah. But look, everything has some core threads. All of it involves creativity. It all aligns with my sense of what I'm expressing in the world. And there is this element of not knowing. We've called it the sacred I don't know. Really, with expectation that something brilliant will come out of it. And I have to say this too. Look, there are days where it is hard to see where it's all going to fall into place. There are setbacks and challenges and what am I doing and self-doubt. And there is in an improv. You have moments in the improv where it's...
If you're not lost...
If you're not lost.
If you don't hit a point where you've operated from is so at sea, is so lost, if you don't hit that point, recognize that you're in it, and then make the choice in that moment of uncertainty, in that moment of chaos, if you're not clear enough to be able to make the choice to recognize first, I'm lost, my mode of operating is not equipped to handle where I am now. And now I make a choice. I either track back and constrict my my improv or my life to conform to what I already know how to handle, or you allow life to lift you.
So brilliant.
And that requires a lot of heart. That's not going to be figured out in the head. That requires a lot of heart to stay in that chaos. And then the terrifying chaos shifts to beautiful chaos because it is fraught with the same sorts of drama as you experience in an improv. The very next thing could shift into something miraculous.
And it's interesting because what you're saying, Barnet, is so rich and so valuable. If you don't have that moment where you truly don't know where you are, where you don't have, this is not a repeat of something you've done before, and even looking around to see, well, okay, but what are other people doing? This is the unique creative moment. This is the moment that really we all are living for, that moment where there is something unique to us. There is a moment.
I am an individual. I am not looking outside of myself. I am not comparing myself. I am not following in other footsteps. I am not looking for how did somebody else handle this. Out of my own resources, I say yes and to this spatula.
Yes and.
And the spatula becomes a mirror or becomes something magical in very, very literal ways. This is the meaning of Dante. We've discussed this before. This is what the dark wood is. you come to a way in the path in the wood, and the path is entirely lost. You either go forward with courage, yes, and in improv, and are met by life, or you double back on the trail, you try and go back where you came from.
It's interesting because we've also spoken collectively. This is both an individual process and a collective process where the paths are running out of, a lot of the paths that we've taken, a lot of the ways that we've done things collectively have run out. There's nothing leading us forward necessarily. And that is at once terrifying and exhilarating, and I think that it's a moment where, the visionary, the interesting thing about visionary, the idea of visionary, that they know the outcome. No, they don't. No, they don't. A true visionary knows this moment and welcomes it and has enough inner resources to know they'll get through it. They have enough healthy expectation, enough unfettered imagination where they're not just going back. What's the third expectation?
Desire.
And they have they have the juice.
They're aware of the imagination that becomes juicy enough so that it doesn't... We're very comfortable with imagining problems, challenges, failures, setbacks, limitations, resistances. We're very comfortable with that. They're more familiar to us. It's not bad. It's just circumstantial. It's certainly true in my own life. I'm very much more comfortable with imagining all of those things than I am imagining plausible possibilities, or even slightly implausible possibilities.
Yeah,
but
when
I get too implausible, then I imagine all the why nots that come up in between because I'm not able to make the connection. So we're much more comfortable. We've trained our imaginations and been trained to have imaginations have a certain boundary. And the role of art in our lives and the practice of developing artfulness in our lives allows us to push back the frontier of that sort of structured imagining. It just allows us to have a bigger, juicier set of possibilities in which to express the expectation, in which to play the improv game. And when I hold that spatula and I hold it up, it is now either a tennis racket or a mirror or a paddle or any number of things. And then whoever I'm working with in the scene goes, yes, and we develop worlds from that. And truly, that is a metaphor for how we operate in life.
So, folks, we've come to the end of the show. I
told you the last minute would be good.
Go get your spatula and bake a cake, darn it.
Yeah.
No, it's been really valuable having this time. Sam was a great guest to have. And, of course, it sparked this conversation. So we're grateful for that. And we are grateful that you took the time today to spend with us. We invite you, of course, to find us on Facebook, tell your friends, share this show, and keep coming back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Thanks for listening.